Alright, for this portion of the project, I decided to focus on the mood that was created by the cinematography of the movie Seven by David Fincher. And I selected this particular film because it looks like a modern day film noir to me. Has a couple little different things from movies like Am or Seance on a Wet Afternoon, which, if you do ask, is my personal favorite in this class. Although there were a lot of good films that were shown, and I did appreciate the fact that it was from the horror movie genre. But Fincher loses a lot of low lighting. I'm gonna go ahead and pop on these glasses because this light is sort of blinding me. And many real light scenes to maintain this small kind of dark, cramped sort of feeling. It's very, very congested. And I looked at it and I said, even in the scenes where Detective Mills is chasing perps through the alley and they're running through the building and eventually the perp runs through the lobby. The oblique camera angle that's used, and it's also long shot and it's aerial because he's coming down a spiral staircase, but he makes it look so small that it seems as though the perp has this narrow window of escape and that the perp is barely getting away, even though if you look at it meter wise, he's about 15, 20 meters ahead of Mills during this entire chase. Um, it's very unique in and of itself just because he takes Fincher takes the largest of areas and makes them seem so small, and it creates the suspense of you're almost always just a moment from getting caught. And so when I did some research, I found out that the actual cinematographer, the film's name is Darius Kanji, and he's known for there's a bleaching process that he used on this film that back in when the film was developed said it was I believe it's revolutionary and the film as a result has this yellowish tint to it, and I wondered what the good would a yellowish tint do in regards to this film. And then I started really watching scenes and just noticing the eerie feel that came from a film being shot in small and dark areas, but when the flashlight is, for example, panning across the wall at the various crime scenes, you see this yellowish tint. Even in the mayor's office, who was the greed victim, when you look at it, you'll see a yellowish tint across everywhere. When in a business professional office, it's typically a very black and white feel. And so the opening scene between Mills was one particular thing that I noticed between Mills and his wife, where it was shot straight on. That doesn't happen very much in this movie. A vast majority of the shots are oblique or canted in some way. A lot of close-up shots, and by close-up I mean not extreme to the point where you just see the face, but it's close up to where all you really do see is the character and what's going on around the character. So a lot of the camera angles here, being close up, it kind of gives you a feel that he wants you to see from the character's perspective, but he doesn't want you to be limited simply to what the character sees. And as Fisher is shooting these shots off of a straight line in the opening scene, the impressive thing is not only does he shoot straight on, pardon me, but he also shoots straight on and angles the characters instead. So the characters in the scene are actually at a 45-degree angle. They're laying horizontally, but their heads are at a 45-degree angle, and their eyes are completely parallel with each other, creating this awesome eye level shot, which creates this mood of us as viewers understanding the love and the passion and the genuine caring that is existing between Mills and his wife in the movie Tracy. I just kind of like that shot because I didn't even realize until after the movie, after my first viewing of the movie, rather, that in watching it, it's one of the more unique shots in the film. It doesn't really happen. Everything in this movie pretty much is angled, even when they're on the floor. For example, in the second crime scene, as the relationship between Mills and Somerset is developing, you'll see even in the film, the scene where they're like kind of trying to figure out what the painting means and figure out what's on the wall, that even those angles are slightly canted, even if it's only 10 degrees. So I figure the fact that the director pays such attention to that is the fact that it does make sort of a difference and something that should be noted. Um, since the theme since the theme for cinematography has pretty much just been the relationships in this movie, I'll stick with that theme and I'll go on to the relationship between Somerset and Mills. And those tend to be a mix of high and low canted angles. They're also not shot straight on. They're long shot a lot because you see the separation between the two characters. But as the movie goes on over time, their faces actually starts to become closer together. And as the faces starts to become, they start to work in closer proximity with each other. You see the shots get tighter and the shots get narrower. I believe that the shots between these two are actually the slowest shots in the film because the other shots tend to move rather quickly. Um, Even when these two are in dialogue, um, they rapidly switch back and forth between each other by themselves. A long shot of them. One scene that strikes me in particular is a scene where the two are together on the couch. And when they start on the couch, they're so far apart, but it's a long shot, so you see this whole hallway. You see this perspective that they're looking at, and then you see those two just pretty much on the couch with each other laying there, and they're having this conversation, but they're not really looking at each other. You see, one's pretty much on his side of the couch, and the other, is on his side of the couch. But they're talking, and by the time morning comes, what actually ends up happening is Somerset's asleep on, I'm sorry, Mills is asleep on Somerset's arm, and it's very, it's interesting to see how the director chose to use their own camera angles in order to tell us what's happening at this point in the relationship. I kind of appreciated that. So finally, um, I looked at Somerset and Tracy's relationship, and Somerset and Tracy's relationship, um, in the beginning of the relationship, you know, because they lacked familiarity, I suppose, it made sense for them to be so long shot. Um, Everything was shot from the angle of, these two are far away from each other. And this is what really solidified for me the fact that the director of this movie likes to use the camera angles in this film to express relationships between people and how people interact. And does he use the high angle to show you how big a person is, or the low angle to show you how small a person is? Or, as a viewer, when I watch it, I look like, okay, well, you know, this is the important person in the scene, and these are the people gravitating to that person. And so for me, when Somerset and Tracy meet and they're in the house and they're having their initial dialogue, they're always very far away from each other, still slightly angled, not shot straight on, but it definitely shows you the gap between the two. As these two get closer, though, what ends up happening is it becomes a more deep and complex set of angles where it may be shot straight on. For example, when they're in a diner, that one is shot a lot more straight on and direct and to the point, and it actually matches Somerset's conversation with Tracy because he really wants to know, you know, why are we here? What are we doing here? What's the problem? So I do apologize. I may have gone over my time a little bit, but I kind of got excited actually being able to talk about this film because I do kind of regret not taking this in a class setting where we can actually sit in a circle and dialogue about these things and, you know, have that conversation in a little bit more of an extended manner. But I'm John Barksdale, and this is my commentary on the cinematography angles of the movie 7.